Jump pack intercessors, also known as assault intercessors with jump packs, according to their datasheet. But anyway, these guys were released in the Space Marine 10th Edition refresh. They can be run in squads of 5s and 10s, and they're going to run you about $60 per kit, which is for 5 dudes. And so 2 would be $120, and legally you could run 30 in a list. You're probably not going to, but if you did, it would run you $360. Or, shortly before 40k got its jump pack Marines, the Horus Heresy actually got some jump pack Marines as well, in the form of the Mark 6 Assault Squad. This kit has 10 guys in it and costs $70. So basically, for $10 more, you get 5 more guys. So if you want to go a little crazy and run the maximum 30 that you can legally run in a list, it's going to run you $210, which is $150 less. But if you're normal and just want to run the 10, it's going to save you about $50. I say about because there might be some secondary costs for like kit bashing and hobbying and whatnot if you don't already have the stuff. And then just a big disclaimer, these are Firstborn Marines, or commonly known as beakies, so if you're not into that style, this might not be the video for you. But if you do like them, cool. If you don't consider that to be a problem, the first problem would be is they're quite a bit smaller. Like approximately an inch smaller. And it's mostly because of this tactical rock here. They're all on tactical rocks, but even without the tactical rock, they are about a Space Marine head shorter, which 9 times out of 10 isn't going to be a big problem. In casual games, nobody should really care, and if they do, you probably don't want to spend 3 hours at a table with them. And then even on the tournament side of things, it's GW plastic. It's technically legal, as long as you're not obviously doing it for model advantage kind of thing. But double check with your TO, because previously the easiest way to convert these guys for cheaper was to get 2 jump pack upgrade kits and just put them on assault intercessor. Now, they don't have any tactical rocks. Problem is, they don't make the jump pack upgrade kits anymore, so to combat the height a little bit, I used something called corkboard. A lot of people in the hobby already use this to kind of give their model a bigger presence, especially with like characters and whatnot. But the best part about it is it's relatively cheap, and you don't need a ton of it to get the effect you want. It varies in different thicknesses, so be careful which one you get. Typically they're about a 1/4 inch, so that would close the gap pretty quickly. Stick around to the end of the video and I will show you how I did it. And then the next problem is going to be the loadouts. Unfortunately, the Horus Heresy kit only comes with bolt pistols and chain swords, and then a power fist option for the sergeant. So if you want to run anything other than a power fist and a chain sword, you're going to have to look for bits secondhand if you don't already have them. I was lucky enough to have a couple plasma pistols, and then I traded somebody else for a couple more, and then I just loaded them out with the power fists anyway because that's what I was going for. But if you want a power sword or hammer or whatever else they can use, you're going to have to find them secondhand, unfortunately. Secondhand bits can be back and forth as far as price goes, but I think it's still in the end going to be a better deal. Or find somebody to make a trade with. If you have a big community, chances are somebody's probably willing to let some go. At the end of the day though, the jump pack intercessors are still a really cool kit. I really do like the design of them. I actually have 10 of them just because I bought the Blood Angels army box, but those are going to be Death Company. But yeah, it's really a preference thing, and if you're willing to use the Horus Heresy ones instead. I mean, I personally really like the beakies, so not only is this saving money, it's kind of a preference. And I know what you're thinking. We've pretty much wrapped up in 4-ish minutes here, and this video's roughly 20 minutes long. Well, I'm going to use every excuse I can to get some hobby content on the channel and show you how I made mine. So obviously I picked up a box. The transfer sheet's not super great unless you play Imperial Fists. But yeah, you get 2 sprues of the actual Marines, And then you get 1 sprue of jump packs. So something you may be able to trade if somebody's looking for it, but these have shields that we're not going to be using. So those are extra bits that you could maybe use to get some of the other weapon options. But onto the normal hobby stuff of snipping, sanding, and gluing. I carefully put together all 10 of these guys, jump packs included. This is where previously collecting Space Marines comes in handy. I have a bunch of extra bits from my old Blood Angels kits, and most importantly, a plasma pistol. It's a firstborn plasma pistol too, so the size is going to match up pretty well. I'm going to snip off the arm here, just so it matches the Mark 6 arm. You probably don't have to, it's about the same size, but I just wanted to give it a little extra. And then you just secure the arm to the body, and you have a plasma pistol jump pack intercessor. And then we've got the power fist from the actual kit here. So I'm going to get that secured. And lastly, the head. I have lately been sub-assembly painting heads, but I kind of want to just get this project done quickly. So here's the Sergeant. My least favorite thing about this kit is these split shoulder pads. Trying to get the seam out of these is a little inconvenient, but again, I'm not really going for Golden Demon standards here, so the plastic glue should get rid of the gap enough. Another good thing is the shoulder pads are pretty much the same size, so if you had some actual Blood Angels or whatever chapter you run, you could just use these on this kit. I'm just opting to use the studded shoulders, because despite them being annoying to put together, I do like the look of them. But here's the Sergeant all put together, and then I just do that 9 more times. And then just a quick size reference, here's a regular Assault Intercessor against him. It's not a jump pack, but the size isn't too bad. And then join me outside for a quick prime. I'm using Vallejo Scarlet Red here, which is a lot brighter than I originally anticipated, because I used to prime black and then paint scarlet over, which would make them a little bit darker, but we'll fix that here in just a second. But yeah, 10 red Space Marines. To fix the overly bright red, I'm going to literally slather all of these guys in gnome oil. I don't typically use this much wash anymore because it darkens it, but since the primer itself turned out so much lighter than my normal stuff, I figured I would use that to my advantage, and it seemed to work. That is much closer. And then I'll just bring up the reds and leave the recesses dark from the gnome oil, so hitting only the higher spots, and then just gradually bringing up with very thin coats of red. So yeah, that's a little better. Not quite as dark, except for in the spots where it should be dark. And then to get that red really popping, I'm going to use this Bold Pyre Red to get the highest points even brighter. So, a bunch of that, and then you got some good light to dark gradients. And then using an old brush, I will get those metallics going to get some of these details standing out. And then black on the chain swords with the intention of giving them hazard stripes later, but that's a struggle for another video. Maybe by that video I'll learn where my camera is and how to properly paint on camera, but back with the gnome oil to go over my metallics and hide all of my sins. Just getting in those recesses, and by now we have some decent jump pack intercessors, quote unquote. Some of them still don't have hands, because by the time I got to this point, my plasma guy hadn't come through yet. If you don't have a plasma guy, you should get a plasma guy. But then looking at it, you should see even with their weird posing, their silhouette's not too far off. So really, the worst part of this is the tactical rock, which again, if you did other similar conversions, they don't have tactical rocks. But we're going to fix that anyway with corkboard. So get your corkboard and your bases and some super glue, and then you're going to bust off pieces roughly the size of the base, and then kind of just break away the edges to get it about the same size as the base. If it hangs over a little bit, it's not a big deal. If it hangs over not enough, you can always hide that with other basing materials, but it's not the end of the world. It doesn't have to be the exact same size. Anyway, you're going to take your super glue, at least that's what I use, a generous amount on the base, and then you just slap on the corkboard, spread it around a little bit. It definitely helps. It's not quite there, just because again, the tactical rock and ridiculous pose, but it's good enough for me. I'm happy with it. And then just to kind of make the bases look a little bit better, you can take a pair of snips or a knife or anything and just kind of even out the corkboard a little bit more, make it look a bit more natural and less like corkboard. And then if you have any weird gaps like this one, you can just fill it in with the scraps of corkboard. Repeat that 10 times and you got some bases going. And then you want to make sure that you get a good prime on them, because corkboard is very absorbent and can absorb paint. I'm then slathering it with this brown color just because the only primer I had was Wraithbone, and I don't want my bases to be bright like my models were. So I am slathering it with a very generous amount of brown just to kind of bring that color back down. And then I'll go over it with the actual color I want to use. And then you just repeat that step 10 times again until you have a pile of 10 bake sale rejects. And then I'm going to even the texture out with some red earth here, and then it's going to give it more of that sandy, dry desert look that I go for with my Blood Angels. Use a paintbrush you'll never want to use again because it will ruin it. But yeah, these are looking a bit more natural, but just to bring it out a bit more, I am going to give them a good dry brushing with this e.l.f. eyeshadow brush. It's much cheaper than an actual hobby brush and works just as well. So yeah, Monument Red Oxide to bring out some highlights on the texture of the base. And then I'm going to stipple on some dark orange brown just to give it some color variation. Again, just kind of making it look a bit more natural, but not going too heavy on it, just to make sure when it dries, it kind of evens out a bit. Not sponsored, but I use Huge Miniatures Graphs Tufts just because I like how they look, but they are a really good brand. And then another budget tip, don't buy this. Elmer's glue works just fine. Then you just get a little bit of dab on your grass tuft. This is way generous. It will dry clear though, so I'm not terribly worried about it. Some grass tufts will have glue already on them, but I don't trust that. So yeah, got some cool looking bases. And then the most important part, I'm going to be using super glue to get these guys on there. Sometimes pinning is required, but I haven't had too much problems with it, so if they do break off, I can always go back and pin them later, but for now, I'm going to be lazy. Usually when you do this, unless you break up and get a really rough rock texture, they have a good flat surface to glue on, so it's not too bad. Unless they have really small contact points, which some of these guys do, so there's a very good chance I will have to pin them in the future, but again, I'm just going to ignore it for now. But yeah, the last step is to get a nice black rim around the base, and you have an Assault Intercessor with jump pack with a bit more height. So yeah, I think these guys turned out pretty great. I'm excited to use them. I do like the look of the other Assault Intercessors with jump packs for sure, but I also really like Beaky Marines, and I thought it'd be a fun little project to do a conversion that was actually extremely simple, other than cutting off a few hands. I'm also somebody who likes to have a little bit of variation in their army, so I'll probably pick up a couple of the regular kits at some point, but for now I got these guys. If you're somebody who wants to run 30 jump pack guys at some point, this is a way that you could save a bit of money. Again, if you play competitively, maybe check with your TO just in case, but until then, we'll see you next time.